The session is titled Celebrating UNESCO City of Literature, Heidelberg. My name is Claudia Kramatschek. I'm a member of the coordination team of UNESCO City of Literature, which is embedded into the Department of Cultural Affairs of the city of Heidelberg, and that is where I'm working for. To me, it's a personal pleasure to be here, not only as a representative of UNESCO City of Literature Heidelberg, but also it is 20 years back that I was the last time in Pakistan, and it's really an honor for me being back here for to this occasion and now here being on stage. I'm pleased to have at my side the German writer Julia von Lucadou. You may give an applause to her. She's here because she was born in Heidelberg, and we as UNESCO City of Literature, we were able to send her as a sort of delegate from Heidelberg. This was able to a certain person who and I think we both are very, very grateful to, because without the Annemarie-Schimmel-Haus, and especially without Norin Zaki, who is sitting in the first row, this would not have happened, and we are very, very grateful to all your work you've done. Now, celebrating UNESCO City of Literature Heidelberg, who has celebrated the 10th anniversary last year with an annual-long festival, and with an ending party at the end of November, because on 1st December 2014, Heidelberg was labeled as UNESCO City of Literature. But celebrating UNESCO City of Literature Heidelberg also means to celebrate UNESCO City of Literature Lahore. The ties between both cities are strong and very close, not only because a certain poet and philosopher, the beloved Muhammad Iqbal, once upon a time studied in Heidelberg and fell in love with the city, to an extent that he wrote several poems dedicated to the city. If you would come to Heidelberg, maybe you've been, you would find a part of the river named after Muhammad Iqbal, and there's also a stone which memorizes the presence of Muhammad Iqbal and which tells you he's still there in the city and with us. We also fell in love with Lahore becoming a UNESCO City of Literature, and we were grateful that we were able to support Lahore becoming a UNESCO City of Literature. Because as a UNESCO City of Literature, you're not only committed to support the local artists, the local writers, the bookshops, the literary translators, the publishing houses, you're also requested to commit and work back into the network itself, be it in forms of cooperation project with other cities of literature, but you're also committed to support cities who want then to apply as a UNESCO City of Literature, who embark on the way, and who then has become labeled, and we did so with Lahore. We have initiated several cooperation projects. I would like to mention just a few. We had a digital format commemorating the birthday of Muhammad Iqbal. We had invited the Urdu writer Mirza Atabaik to the Literary Festival of Heidelberg, who is more than 30 years old now. And we also had invited a beautiful person, miniature painter and gardener and researcher, and I'm looking for him now. I hope he will join. It's the miniature painter Usman Said. He came to Heidelberg, gave a workshop for artists in Heidelberg, and this was a 2.5-day long workshop. And the outcoming paintings were then responded by authors from Heidelberg who wrote poems and both the poems, here it comes. Welcome, Usman. Yeah, and then we showed them both the poems and the artworks to the audience. And this is a special shawl. I'm wearing it in reference and in homage to the beautiful person, Usman Said, because this was a gift he brought to me from Lahore to Heidelberg. And it traveled now back to Lahore, and it will travel back with me to Heidelberg again. And I will always be reminded to the beautiful days I spent here as well. With Julia von Lucadou now participating in this festival, our mutual exchange between both cities is continuing, and I'm really looking forward to more such projects and cooperations coming ahead. Julia, you were born 1982 in Heidelberg. It's a small city. Ruud once said, there's only one good thing about small town, you can always leave them. You left Heidelberg for studying at the university. How does it feel now to be reclaimed by us as a sort of Heidelberg writer? Because we did so already when we sent you as a writer to Estland in Tartu to a festival. We did so now the second time. How was it for you?
I mean, it's great. I love to be reclaimed by Heidelberg. Of course, as a child, you always want to get away from where you're from. You want to see the world. And I'm glad that now my home city is sending me out into the world, and it's brought me here. I couldn't be more happy. I feel so grateful. And I do feel the exchange between these two cities very strongly. We spent some time with university students of literature the last few days, and they were absolutely mind-blowing to me. We had such deep conversations about the meaning of literature, and I really feel like Lahore's heart is beating for literature. It's a medium that's taken so seriously here, also as a political voice, but also the beauty of the language, the poetry tradition really, really inspired me. So I'm very, very grateful that I get to be here because I was born in a UNESCO literature city.
We met only Tuesday for the first time. We were arriving Wednesday morning. We were chatting a lot immediately, and while chatting now all these days long, I realized that you have traveled a lot and that you lived a lot in many, many different countries and places. And I was wondering if these sort of travels and experience of other cultures and countries had and have an impact on you as a writer, and if so, in which way?
Oh, yes, definitely. The reason I traveled so much was that originally, after I was born and grew up in southern Germany, I never felt very connected to my own country. I don't know, I think it has to do with maybe family traditions or maybe a little bit the southern German traditions, but I always felt a little bit boxed in. I felt like I was in a very small place and I wanted to know different cultures, different languages. And so as soon as I could get out, I went to New Zealand first to study, and then ended up traveling through different countries and living in different countries on different continents. And every time I came to a new place, I became a new person. And I think that's essential for my writing, because in my writing I try to empathize with people that I at first glance wouldn't empathize with. So I often choose characters that are a little bit unsympathetic, that are a little bit difficult, that are very complex, and writing about them makes me understand them so much more. And so now that I've traveled so much, I've come back to Germany and I finally also understand Germans. So being in other countries actually helped me understand my own culture better, and that's how I sort of reclaimed my own language. I only started writing in German about 10 years ago, and before that I spent all my life in speaking English and working in the English language. And I love coming back to German now and to really appreciate it, and in reference to other languages, and I feel really enriched by that. Yeah.
That brings me to my next question. You have published 2 books so far. The first novel in German is The Hochhausspringerin, the high-rise diver, which was published in German in 2018. It won the Swiss Literaturpreis. The second one, Tic Tac, came out 2022, is it? Mm-hmm. Yes. It's not published, not translated yet into English, is it?
It's being translated right now. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So you can both books soon read in English language. Looking at these books, it exactly brought me to the idea, the impression that while you traveled extensionally to outside worlds. I feel that your protagonists or your books are more journey into inner landscapes. Mm-hmm. Would you subscribe this?
Yeah, definitely. Both my parents are psychologists, so I grew up looking in very deeply. I read all the literature we had around the house about psychology. I find it fascinating to learn about how the human mind works. And it's also something that we all can identify with. We all share the same type of psyche, the same type of psychological problems as well. And so it made me connect to people in general, thinking about, what damages the psyche and what heals it, and what makes us become aggressive, violent, and what makes us become empathetic and kind. And so both my books deal with that in different ways. My first book is about a psychologist, actually. It's set in a future that's very, very close to our reality right now. And there's a famous athlete in this world that has become the most important person, very high status, extremely successful, beautiful person. And she suddenly decides not to do her job anymore and to give up her status and to give up that life of luxury. And the story is told from the perspective of a psychologist who is called in to fix her, to fix this athlete, to analyze her, to see what's wrong with her, and to bring her back on the right path, because she's making a lot of money for a lot of people. And I really found both these psyches very, very interesting. The psychologist is very much part of the world she lives in. She really believes in this performance society where your entire value as a person is determined by your productivity, by your output, by your wealth. And Riva, the athlete who stops working, has come to the understanding that something's wrong with that concept, that maybe her value is not determined by her performance. And both these aspects of personality I could recognize in myself, and I wanted to understand it better. I was brought up by my parents to be very, very competitive, to always shoot for the highest stars, and to define myself through my success. And I started to doubt that very much, that concept that comes, I think, from a capitalist sort of ideology. And so I understood Riva, the athlete, very well, who wanted to break with that system. But I also understood, he told me, the psychologist, who stayed with it and who was very afraid to let go of the system because she didn't have a good alternative. So yeah, that was my first excursion into psyches.
There's always, two options. If you have or parents or psychologists as parents, teachers as parents or psychologists, or you turn away completely and you will never get back to that topic, or you go into the track of this. I'm really happy to hear that, you soaked up this energy.
Yes.
And I really think your book benefits from it. The book was written or was published 2018. This doesn't seem so long ago, but you just said it's a form of surveillance society we are now more or less nearly living in. Mm-hmm. Would you have expected this? It was a sort of dystopian book when it was published. Now it's not so dystopian or not so science fiction, not a fiction that much any longer. Would you have guessed that, expected that?
Yes, I mean, that's why I wrote the book. I feel like most of the elements in the book, the technology of surveillance, and also this ideology of self-surveillance, which is a very important part of it, was already there when I wrote the book, and was really worrying to me. And that was sort of my motivation behind writing the book, that I saw what was happening at that time in China already, for example, where an authoritarian regime was using these technologies of surveillance to discriminate in horrible, violent ways against minorities and also against non-minorities who were being, too subversive. And I sort of felt that same repression within German society in a way that's not an authoritarian regime, but there is an authoritarian sort of economy, right? Like we have this new god that's the product has to be sold to the people, and we have giant companies who are in charge, who seem to be in charge of our minds and our behavior, who are influencing us heavily to get us to buy certain products. So I feel that already felt quite dystopian to me. And I think, yes, it has intensified, but it's not, I mean, it was already there in 2018, I feel.
If I look at the German literature, especially the debut written in German literature in the run of the last year, I felt that it was quite unusual and rarely that a young writer for her first novel choose such a topic. Do you agree? And did you feel a little bit, oh my God, will they buy it? Will it get through?
I mean, I came to literature and to being a writer with the idea of wanting to break with this idea of productivity and like having to be the most successful. So I was not worried about selling books. Quite the opposite. I was hoping that I could sort of, because literature is a very small medium in Germany. It doesn't have a lot of influence. People are, on social media, they are watching series on Netflix, but there's not really that many people anymore who read literature. So I wasn't that worried about it. And actually, there was quite a trend, I feel, in the past 10 years or maybe 15 years, where I did see German writers taking up this sort of dystopian writing. And I was very influenced by one writer in particular. His name is Leif Rand, who started writing, who has been continually sort of writing these types of critical dystopias. And I read his first book, which sort of portrays a seemingly utopian city where everybody is very well and secure and happy, and you just start slowly feeling that there's something beneath the surface, and it really impressed me, and I think it might have influenced my writing a little bit.
I understand that literature for you is a part of social criticism. Is it that you look quite critical to society and that literature is a form to counterpart that, right?
Yes. I feel like literature has such a political capacity, and especially now that we're so used to this new form of information that's very quick, that has to be very short, that cannot be complex at all, right? It has to be boiled down to slogans and to short videos. Especially now, to have literature which gives you so much time, to write a novel you need years, and to read a novel you need a long time as well. And it gives you the chance to see social issues in their complexity and not boiled down to black and white. So I really, really appreciate that. And I try to use it as much as possible.
Your figures also, it's also the case in your second novel, Tic Tac, are at cross with the society they are living in. Now one could read that as a sort of resilience and resistance. They drop out in a sort. Or one could read that as resignation.
As what, sorry?
Resignation.
So sorry, can you explain it again?
Yes, your figures drop out. They're at cross with the society they live in. So one could interpret this at or resistance or at resignance.
So yes, so maybe I should explain a little bit about the characters. My second novel has two main characters. One is a young 15-year-old girl, a teenager, who grows up with social media, right? That's her world. That's where she expresses herself, and that's where she wants to fit in. But she's a bit of an outcast. She doesn't fulfill some of the requirements to be successful on social media. Her body is not beautiful enough. She's fat, and she doesn't feel accepted in society. And she's in a crisis. Her parents don't speak the same language. You know, she's very much in the digital realm. Her parents don't understand where she lives. And so she has almost no one to talk to. And in this insecure state, she meets an older guy, he's 10 years older, who is very successful online as an influencer and he makes videos and content to spread conspiracy theories and fake facts, a lot of fake information, like wrong information, false information, and he sees her potential, and starts manipulating her and getting her to create content with him, and makes her feel like she's understood and she's appreciated. Both are very intelligent people. So this young girl, she feels seen in her intelligence and her competence, and she becomes a little bit like a puppet of this older guy who's using her to spread false information. And so their frustration, they both are very frustrated people. And they both feel like outcasts in this society. And I really wanted to understand what brings people to become so aggressive and violent, especially online, because that's something that's happening over and over, and to spread these false conspiracy theories. And I felt that frustration was a huge motivator. And before I wrote the book, I always approached people spreading false information by trying to convince them that they were wrong, and very aggressively sort of arguing with them. And by writing the book, I realized that that's the completely wrong approach, because it's not about the content, it's not about the information, it is about the emotion, it's about the frustration. And if you approach them aggressively, they're going to be even more frustrated, so you're feeding into that. And so I think that we need to be compassionate to everyone who feels outcast, and we need to find a way, like a common language again, and to bridge these gaps. Yeah.
I would say this is a wonderful ending point. Be compassionate and use literature as a tool for social understanding and gapping the bridge. It seems we have to come to an end. A young lady is coming forward to me. Do we have the option to have questions raised?
Is there
Yes.
no time?
Just two. We were starting late. We are the ending session. Is there any question?
Are the books available?
I believe no. Just online. You can buy them online. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How we can help her, you mean?
Yes, oh yes.
That's a very deep, very complex question, I feel. I do think that one aspect of the book shows that parents often don't understand sort of this new realm of social media. And I think it's important that they educate themselves and that they try understanding this new language. Because if you lose the language, which is happening in Germany right now, children speak a language that cannot be understood by the older generation, I think that creates a lot of frustration. And these parents are not really there for her daughter in this case. Yeah.
Yeah, the technical devices, they make the gaps between parents and children much bigger and in a much faster way, because the device is not a part of them, they are part of the device. And in our generation, you sometimes simply don't understand. And I really speak not a slang, but a sort of language. It's like Chinese.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've read the really made me really and then we finish it in English. And in Germany, that was never a thing when I grew up over there, and when I grew up, that was not. And in her book, I could just identify with the way the young generation speaks. You know, a lot of English words, when we don't know the Urdu word, we always do that. And so that, and the other fact, I think that the 14-year-old girl, her best friend, is of Pakistani origin. that also, of course, made me really proud, you know. And I could identify with her because I grew up over there. So that is why her books are fantastic. Really, you have to read them. And if you have to learn German, learn German.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I think if you want to ask her some questions furthermore, there might be the chance outside. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank
and
you
enjoy
very
the
much.
Sunday.
Thank you.